And here we are once again, guys. Yes, I know this review is a little bit later than usual, but of course we are here to review this week's episode of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. This is episode 3, Power Broker, and as usual, I am here with my co-host. He was rocking out to the music before, like he usually does. Here he is, FilmFan0599.
Yes, I was. You couldn't see it, but I was trying to form.
You're getting in the feels.
trying to form a mosh pit while trying to. I find it hilarious that every time when the Falcon and Winter Soldier thing comes up, it always says, and Don Cheadle.
I know.
Certified Don Cheadle moment.
Anyways, yeah, even though he's only been in one episode.
Anyways, hey, what's up, you guys? FilmFan0599 here again, and we're here to do another review for Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Better late than never, as I always say.
Definitely. At least it wasn't tomorrow. We're not doing this tomorrow before the new episode. That would really be like, that would not be great.
Hey, shit happens, man. We've had to review 2 episodes in one review before, so we've
no, that's true. We have. Getting into this episode, I was definitely really looking forward to this episode, especially with the reintroduction of Zemo and things like that. I was really liking the show up to this point. And before I get into my thoughts on this episode, Double Nine, what did you think of this week's episode overall?
See, this is where the interesting thing is going to get into with this review, folks. Because I'm just gonna say, Kevin and I really don't. Yeah,
this is definitely one of our more, I would say, divided reviews that we've done.
But with that being said, I personally had a blast with this episode. I really enjoyed it a lot. There are some things that I do think could have been a bit better, but for me, I enjoyed it a lot. There was a lot of things I really loved. I loved the chemistry between Sam, Bucky, and Zemo a lot. I really enjoyed watching them on screen together. I thought that was great. There was a lot of great things I really enjoyed with this episode, in all honesty. Like, I thought it was really great, honestly. I enjoyed it a lot. It's probably my least favorite of the 3 episodes thus far, but like that's really not saying much since I've really loved all 3 episodes so far. So I really had a blast with this, honestly. I thought it was a really enjoyable episode, in all honesty, for me personally.
Yeah, here's the thing for me. I don't think this was a horrible episode or anything, but considering how good the first 2 have been, this left a lot to be desired for me. I was not a big fan of this episode, and my biggest issue, I'll just say right now, what I've loved about the first 2 episodes is that they've been very character driven. They focused a lot on who Bucky and Sam are, outside of them just being, superheroes and them trying to kind of, discover their purpose and things like that. Whereas I feel like this episode, all of the good character work took a back seat to just moving the plot forward. And it did it in a way that felt very haphazard and almost felt like there was enough plot in this episode that could have been spread across other episodes. And, I talked about this last week, but I am really starting to get worried about that 6-episode length. I don't think that was enough for this show. I really don't. And I just don't think the show is going to end in a very satisfying manner. But we'll just get into right now, because right off the bat, we have an issue with this episode for me. So the way we left off last week, we knew that Sam and Bucky were going to see Zemo, and here's what I would have wanted personally, Double Nine, and I don't know if you agree with me. What I would have wanted is like a 10 to 15 minute scene where they actually get to sit down with Zemo, and we get to see them, sort of just talk things out with him. Because if you remember, Zemo is one of the reasons I love Zemo as much as I do is because he isn't this like super powered villain. He's just a regular guy who, did a lot of horrible things, but he also was middle class, and he didn't like the Avengers because of them being these very super powered, very well protected beings that got away with all of this damage. And he wanted to, find a way to break them up. And he did just that. So there is a lot of bad history when it comes to Zemo and Bucky and Sam Instead, what we get is we get one scene where Bucky decides to go to Zemo, and then he decides to break him out of prison in maybe the most lame way possible, the way he ended up doing it. And not only did this really already throw me off, because I felt like this was something we would have gotten like 20 minutes into the episode as opposed to like 3 minutes into the episode, but it didn't make sense from a character perspective for Bucky. Let's look at where Bucky has been up to this point in the show. His entire arc this show has been trying to make up for what he did as the Winter Soldier, trying to do what he can to repay the debt to those that he feels he needs to, whether it was that guy whose son he killed, or whether it's to someone like Isaiah, someone that he kept hidden and trying to, get people to know more about him. And just for me, I don't know how you feel about this, but this felt very out of character that Bucky would end up breaking someone like Zemo, the person who is responsible for all of the fucked up stuff that Bucky has done out of prison. It just didn't really make sense to me. If Sam were to do it, maybe it would make sense. But Bucky doing it, it just didn't really work for me. I don't know. What did you think of that whole thing?
Well, I do agree on the thing that, because one of my issues with the episode is I do think we do kind of do rush a bit with the whole getting back to Zemo and stuff like that. Like I do feel like we should have had a little bit more time of kind of seeing what's been up and stuff like that. I will agree with that. I do think that should have been handled a bit better. I do think that part of it was a bit rushed. I don't necessarily agree with the out of character thing. I don't know. Like, I don't necessarily think because I mean, I get where Bucky is coming from, where he is the only option that we have right now of trying to get the super, so he knows about Hydra and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure he doesn't want to fucking do it. I know he really does not want to break this guy out of jail, but what other option do they have at this point? So I kind of see it as that, maybe I will admit, maybe it's a bit odd that they went with the choice for Bucky, but
it's just the fact that it's Bucky that did it. That's the issue I have. It just, especially with, what Zemo did, him holding Bucky captive, making him this soldier of sorts. It just, I don't know. It just really did not work well for me. And especially I just rewatched this episode, really did not work well for me on a rewatch. I did not like the way that ended up going at all. I will say I like the idea that Zemo, at least right now, is not the villain of things. He's more of not necessarily an ally for them, but he's just someone that they're tolerating at this point. And I do really like that. And I do think easily the best part of this episode was Daniel Bruhl's performance. He absolutely stole the show. I loved what he did here, aside from the fact that, yes, they did kind of rewrite some stuff with his character that I don't really love. It was definitely, they definitely retracted some things from him where, originally he was this middle-class guy, and now he apparently is this baron of sorts. And I don't know. I don't really know how to feel about that, but I will say I definitely really did love seeing Daniel Bruhl back in this role. He got right back into it. He definitely carried this episode really well, and I do think moving forward, he's going to end up being one of the highlights of the show for sure. So I definitely do agree. It was really great to see him back here.
Oh yeah, he was fantastic in this episode. I fucking loved every minute of him when he was in this episode. Every time he came on screen, it was just so cool to see him. I just loved how just how natural this guy is in this role. I love him in this the scene where they're talking about Marvin Gaye, right? I love that scene, and he's it's a masterpiece, James. It's complete, comprehensive. It really, and
you wouldn't expect him to
it really captures the African American experience. It's same as he's out of line, but he is right. Stuff like that is great. I
did like that. I did like that.
I enjoyed that a lot. And then of course the scene where they're in the club, he's doing the fucking date. He's just so enjoyable. I love him in this. I think he was so great in this, and I'm really excited to see more of him moving forward in this series, honestly, because he just seems like he's having a good time with this, honestly.
Oh yeah, definitely. He's definitely, I think, for me, the thing that kind of saves this episode, and all the acting, that is. I think all the acting saves this episode overall. Now, this is where we get to my real issue with this episode, is that for me, at least, this episode felt like 3 episodes worth of story, because immediately we go to Mandrapore, which is this criminal sanctuary. It's in Indonesia of sorts, and all of them have to pretend to be different criminals for disguise. And in doing this, Bucky has to pretend he still is, he still is controlled by Zemo. He's still triggered by certain words that he's saying. And I did like getting to see that. The one issue that I did hear people say that I do kind of agree with is this doesn't really make sense for Sam, considering that Sam is someone that is solely one of the people that is responsible for bringing the world back to the way it's supposed to be. And up to this point, everyone's recognized Sam. Everyone sees him as like the Falcon. And the fact that here they didn't know who he was, it just didn't make sense to me. And it's mainly because like this was a global thing. You know, they had to have seen what the Avengers did. They had to have seen the people that were responsible. So the fact that they didn't recognize Sam, I didn't really buy into that. And it also, I feel like Sam didn't really have a lot to do character-wise in this episode. He was kind of put into the background here. And that was disappointing for me, because I like what they've been doing with him up to this point. We do get that one moment with his sister that I liked, but I want to see more of that. Like, I want to see more of him trying to help out his sister and, you know, fix their family legacy and things like that. And we haven't really gotten back to that since episode 1. So I hope we're able to get back into that and not just focus on all this plot stuff. Because I just don't think that is as interesting to me. But I do think the best moment in this episode, and I think you will agree with me, it's when Bucky reverts back to his Winter Soldier type persona. It was badass. I love the way this scene was done. It was a really great moment for Bucky, because you can realize like he doesn't want to do this, but it's one of those things where he has to do it. And just the way that whole sequence was done, I mean, it reminds us how much shit Bucky has really been through. And I really liked the way that whole sequence was done. What did you think of this whole thing with them going to Mandrapore and meeting this character Selby, and that whole sequence with Bucky going back to Winter Soldier? What did you think of that?
I really enjoyed it, you know, like, and it just like, cause like I knew what would like, cause now that like Bucky's in this position where he's trying to get better and trying to, you know, not be who he once was, and now he has to revert back to that. And plus, a lot of people were filming this. Like, so it just like, what's going to happen now? Like if this footage gets out of him acting like this,
right?
Like it's not going to be good. Like, you know, how is he supposed to explain this? You know, like it's just like, I'm very curious to now see where this heads into in the later episodes. I will be disappointed if this doesn't. I probably, it will be brought up, but like if they don't bring it up, it will just be really weird if they didn't, especially with everyone filming it. But
right.
But yeah, I thought it was a pretty great sequence. I really enjoyed it a lot, and yeah, it just concerns me more for the future of what will happen with Bucky, because like I said, you know, people were filming this, and you know, a lot of people know who this is and stuff like that. It just really, really like, yeah, I don't see this looking good for Bucky at all, to be honest.
Yeah, no, definitely, and I think the other thing that really was a big moment is when, you know, we have this whole thing where at one point Sarah calls Sam by his name, and they're like, who the fuck is Sam? They realize what's really going on, and Selby is killed in that moment. And this makes things worse. They got this bounty on their heads, but this is where we get to another one of my problems, is that this is kind of just they go away from it. We don't really get, you know, they get away from what happened to Selby very quickly, because, oh, here comes Sharon Carter to save the day. And I'm going to be honest, I did not like what they did with Sharon here. I liked her in, you know, Civil War and Winter Soldier a lot. I think Emily VanCamp is good in the role, but I think what was missing to me, it's a lot of show, not tell. We see a lot of her talking about, you know, what's happened here. the fact that she, got Cap's shield and she's been on the run all this time. And there were two issues I have with it. One, it's the fact that I don't buy the Cap would have never gone to check on her. I don't buy that. They were getting into a relationship in Civil War. It seemed like they liked each other. The least he could have done was go to check up on her. I don't believe that Steve Rogers would not have done that, especially in a 5-year span when they didn't know where she was. I would have thought that's one of the people that he thinks about is, what happened to Sharon. So I don't buy that. Two, the leap from her being a, CIA agent working for S.H.I.E.L.D. to now being this fugitive of sorts, it's just a big leap to take. And I really think what they should have done, and I don't know if you agree with me on this, Film Fan, but what I really was hoping they were going to do is almost what they do with Monica in WandaVision, catch us up to where she's been, since the events of Civil War. You should have started out this episode with us. In fact, I think episode 2 should have ended with them finding Sharon. I do. I think episode 2, that's how it should have ended, with them finding her. And then in episode 3, you can get this backstory and you can really get to see, what got Sharon to make this choice. And I think it would have just made it that much more effective. But it feels like we were kind of robbed of getting to see that because, she just kind of speaks it to us. And I don't know, what did you think of this idea of Sharon? Because to me, this felt like a completely different character.
I don't know. Like, I don't think for me it was as big of a thing, in all honesty. Like, I didn't really have much of a problem with it as maybe you did. I don't know if really anyone else had really a problem with it, but I don't know. Just it didn't like bother me that much. Like I just kind of like, I don't know. I've just never really cared that much about the character, if I'm being that honest with you. So like, it didn't really bother me that much that like, we didn't get all this like backstory and stuff like that, of where she's been and stuff. I like, so it didn't really bother me as much. Like, I mean, I think the character is fine. Like, like she's an all right character, but like I don't know, just didn't really I guess too much for me, I guess, in that respect, where like, I need to see what was up with her. I need to like know what was going on. I just
think it would have made it more effective here, especially because the Carter legacy was so important to Steve, and especially considering so much of the show is supposed to be about honoring his legacy. The idea that he never even went to check up on her, I just don't buy it. I don't buy that.
I don't know, because we also got to remember they were all on the fucking run. So like, lots of things were going on, and then the whole thing with Thanos. So we got, we also, there was a lot of things going on at that time as well. So but yeah, I don't know. Just for me, it just didn't. For me, at least, it just didn't bother me as much. Like when I saw like a lot of people like kind of like get upset about it. Like I understand, but like I just I don't know, just for me, it didn't really just like it didn't bother me as much, to be honest. I don't know. Like I say, it just didn't really bother me as much for
Right. Yeah, I definitely get that. I don't know. I just feel like as a character, she just isn't given the proper treatments. And especially considering that a lot of these, I've always said the great thing about these Marvel Disney Plus shows is that they're giving us chances to care more about these secondary characters. I think they could have done that for Sharon. They could have done, say, what they did for Darcy and WandaVision with Sharon here. And I do think we get one really good moment for her. I love the moment where, she's fighting all of those guys after they've gone into into that cellar. I thought that was a really great moment for sure. I like the way that was done. And you can also tell, like, I don't know if you know this, the fight choreography was actually from like the John Wick guys, and you can definitely tell with the way
you can for sure. Like when you get to that final like action set piece, you could definitely tell that like it's from those choreographers, because the way like things are handled and the way like the movements and done, most definitely.
Yeah, that definitely, I think, was a really great moment. But my issue, again, is that once we get to this moment where they're tracking down this guy Nagel, I feel like we're in a different episode. I feel like this is now something else that's happening, where now they have to track down this guy Nagel, who has had all of these samples for years. And like, he ended up disappearing after the blip, and now he's come back. And they keep talking about this character known as the Power Broker. Apparently, he was able to get like 20 vials of the serum, which Carly ended up stealing, apparently. And suddenly Zemo shoots him dead. And I don't have a problem with that at all. I get why Zemo did it. He doesn't want any more of these samples to be produced, but he also doesn't want them to be stolen in any way because of the fact that it has only caused further harm to people. I get why he did that. I don't know. I feel like this is yet another thing that we could have seen dived a bit deeper into, and they just really didn't do it here. It just felt very haphazard in that way. And when he's putting on that purple mask, I'm going to agree with a lot of people said it felt like that's something they did as like fan service, and not in a way that was good fan service. It felt very fan servicey. Like people wanted him to have that purple mask in Civil War and he didn't. So, he has it now. And because we've never seen it in, Civil War before, it has really no significance to his character. So I didn't really understand why they did that either. I don't know. There were a lot of things here that I wasn't a big fan of in terms of this whole sequence here with Nagel and things like that. What did you think of them getting to track down this guy? Did you like what they end up doing there?
I mean, it was. I will agree that maybe there could have been a bit more development there, but I enjoyed the whole sequence. I I thought it was really enjoyable personally for me. I enjoyed it a lot. Like I thought the throwdowns were all great too. Like I thought, the action set pieces, like we were talking about with like the choreography and shit like that, I thought it was great. I really enjoyed it a lot. I personally thought it was really cool. And then, I got really, I can't even lie. I got pretty excited when I saw him put on the purple mask and take down all the bad guys. I thought that was pretty sweet. And he fucking comes in with that convertible. And I'm like, that was great. I enjoyed that a lot.
I don't know. I would have much rather preferred it if they had built up to it better, because he's never mentioned it before. It's not something that has any significance to this particular iteration of Zemo. So I would have I would have liked more build up to it, and we didn't really get that.
Yeah.
Like he took one look at it and it was like, oh, I know what this is. And I'm like, no, I fucking don't. I don't read the comics. Like, what is the significance here?
Yeah.
So I definitely did have an issue with that. But the other thing we do have to talk about is this character of the Power Broker. I'm not gonna try to speculate too much because, as we know, fan theories are only setting you up for disappointment. I have heard a lot of people speculate that this could be Sharon Carter, though, that she could end up being the Power Broker, and I would honestly be down for that because it would give her a bigger significance to this show. Because right now, I don't really know what her significance is. We see her get into that car with that woman who we don't know at the end. So do you think this is hinting that maybe she's the Power Broker, or there's more going on with her than we think? What do you think?
Maybe, it definitely leads a lot of questions, to be honest, especially, when you see her not go with, the gang and stuff like that. And you're like, oh yeah, because she's a fugitive. We get it. But then when we see this other person, we're like, okay, what the fuck is going on here? So it's interesting. And I'm very curious to see where that heads into. Maybe that could be the case, but we'll just have to wait and see, in all honesty. But I am curious, though, to see what really is going on with Sharon Carter.
Yeah, I know Elevator's not worthy. We actually do have someone watching for once. Double Nine said here, the Power Broker is a robot version of Arnim Zola from the comics. And I've said it before, if they're going to introduce something like that, they got to do it soon. You can't do that in the last episode. Of this
also, by the way, real quick, before we get back, thank you for someone for actually watching this live. We appreciate it.
We do love that. That does not happen very often. Maybe we should do these around the afternoon, Double Nine. Maybe we'll have more people to watch. Yeah,
maybe doing it at 9 o'clock at night maybe isn't the best too. Maybe doing it in the afternoon will do us better. Maybe. Anyways.
I think that could definitely be a
But back to
possibility.
what, but back
Also,
to what you
he
were saying.
talks about here, I don't think it's Sharon. I think she's working for Ross and setting up the Thunderbolts. I don't know what the fuck that is, but maybe that's a possibility. I don't know what the Thunderbolts is, but sure.
Ladies and
That is
gentlemen,
true, though. We haven't seen General Ross yet. Like, we haven't seen him at all. So maybe that
is he supposed to be in this show?
I think so. Yeah. I think they said William Hurt's in it. So.
All right. Well, I'll be interested. But if that's the case, then I'd be interested to see maybe where that will go. So, but like you were
surprised if he isn't in it, considering that basically everyone else that was in Civil War that's still alive has made an appearance. So
yeah, and that is true. He was in that. So
yeah.
So I'm very interested. Honestly, it is very. Because it's like, it is interesting. So I'm curious to see where this heads into.
Yeah, so basically, we do have to talk about one other thing, and then we'll get into the stuff that I don't think either of us really cared about in this episode. Basically, Zemo talks about how he is playing this meeting. He's going to meet face-to-face with Carly. He's hoping everything goes great. They end up going to Riga, and when they're there, Bucky seems to separate from him. He's like, oh, I'm just going to go take a walk. Don't know what's going on. All of a sudden, we see these mysterious beads, and the Wakanda theme starts playing, and we know what that means. We're going to meet someone from Black Panther, and it's Io. It's Io, a character that, again, we haven't seen a lot of, but is someone that's been very loyal to the Dora Milaje up to this point. She's the second in command of it, in fact, and she is there to find Zemo. She wants details of Zemo, and I'm of two minds about this. One, I think it's cool because, again, we're seeing a character that really has not had much to do in the Marvels, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe up to this point. She's kind of just been, an ally of either T'Chaka or T'Challa. We haven't really seen much of her up to this point. Two, I'm very worried because of how fast moving this episode was. This isn't going to amount to much. I wouldn't be surprised if she's there for like an episode and then she just kind of goes away. I don't know. What do you think of this reveal?
I thought it was pretty cool. I know some people, some people were really excited about this. And I was too, because Zemo did set off that bomb, so the people of Wakanda aren't really too happy with him at the moment. So I am interested to see where that goes. I hope there is, I hope this doesn't just last for an episode. I hope maybe this could go on maybe for the rest of the series. Honestly, since we only have like 3 more episodes left too. So I hope this goes on maybe for the rest of the series. I'd be very interested to see where this goes because Zemo is not in very he's not in cold water. He's in very hot water at the moment. So,
especially with Wakanda for sure.
They're not very pleased with him at the moment, to say the very least.
I like this a lot because it does add an extra layer to Zemo's character. Remember, he's responsible for T'Chaka dying. He's 100% responsible for that, and Io sort of has this bounty on him, and Bucky having to team up with Io. I feel like this is going to further the idea of Bucky trying to get as far away from his past as possible, and this might be the thing that puts it full circle. Him putting the person that, has caused all this damage to justice once and for all, I think is a really interesting idea. Or maybe they do something different with it. Maybe Io finds Zemo, realizes that he's changed. Maybe they make amends in some way. I don't know. There's a lot of possibilities for where this can go. I just hope it amounts to something interesting. I hope it doesn't disappoint. Because I'm just kind of worried with the way a lot of this episode went that it's not going to deliver in the way that I really wanted to. That's really everything to talk about in terms of that side of things. We do have a couple subplots going on, neither of which I thought were well done, mainly because we didn't get enough of it. One of them involves John Walker and his assistant, they're trying to track down Bucky and Sam. And I'll just be honest, I don't think we're getting nearly enough of this character. I think they did a really good job last week in setting him up, but I feel like since then, he really hasn't done much. He's appeared like once or twice, and I do like the idea that when he goes to interrogate like the Flag Smashers, they're not fazed by him at all because he's not really Captain America. I think that's a really good idea. But right now, I just don't think this character is getting the right amount of screen time. And I wish we get more of him, because if all we're going to get is 1 or 2 appearances of them every episode, that's just not enough for me. I need a lot more from Walker as a character, and I just don't think we're getting it here.
Yeah, I do think hopefully within the next episode, maybe we do get more. I do get where like where the focus was of this episode, and stuff like that. I know the focus, was mainly on Bucky and Sam, which, is understandable. Obviously, it's the Falcon, the Winter Soldier, so obviously they're going to be the main, so like when we do cut back to this, and another thing I really did not, it was literally my least favorite thing of the episode with the next thing we'll talk about. But like, so it just felt like off to me, because it's just like, okay, oh yeah, that's right, these characters are also in this show too, oh yeah, oh shit, but yeah, I do think maybe I was hoping, obviously with the fact that they're tracking down Bucky and Sam now, this is not good for them either. And knowing that Zemo's there too, it's really not good for them. But like you were talking about with that scene where the Flag Smashers weren't fazed by him, I feel like he's going to change that real quick, and it's not going to be good for anyone, I think. And I'm very interested to see where that goes too. So
because we did talk about last week how he's already kind of becoming the thing that Bucky and Sam see him as. He's becoming, a lot more ferocious. He's becoming a lot more just vile of a person. And I think we're really going to start to see that transformation. I just I need more scenes with this character. I do. We have 3 episodes left. Give me more with Walker. I know we all hate him, but you need a good villain in this show. And I feel like Walker is transforming into a good one. So I need more with him.
Yeah. And then the next thing, literally was my least favorite thing about the. I don't give a shit. Like, this is my least favorite thing about the whole show so far. I don't give a shit about these people. Like, they're not giving me anything to give a shit about these characters. Like,
right. The Flag Smashers, once again, I've said it's gonna be the same thing I said last week. I appreciate the fact that they are trying to delve into them, but they're not giving them enough to do. We're getting like 1 or 2 scenes with them every episode, and they're short scenes. It also is very confusing how they want us to feel about the Flag Smashers, because on one hand, they're showing the humanitarian efforts that they did, where they're giving medical supplies to people and things like that. But then they're blowing buildings up with tons of people in them. Like, how the fuck are we supposed to feel about these people? Like, I don't know what they're trying to do here.
Yeah, I just don't care. That's my thing. Like, they're not giving me.
And I feel like we should. Like, they should be really good care. And I really like the idea of them too, but they're not doing anything interesting with them.
Yeah, I just weren't interested. I just was not interested in their characters. Honestly, I just like they need to do something fast, or else like this is just like. Just gonna go nowhere for me. It's already going nowhere for me so far, but I just hope like maybe within these next 3 episodes, maybe they could do something. But like, I don't know. Just I'm not really caring about these characters in all honesty.
To be honest, when Carly brings up like her mother dying, I'm like, your mother was dying since when? Like, it was such an abrupt thing.
It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, they try to get you to care so deeply about it. They try to get you to, really feel like, oh, this is why Carly is doing what she's doing, maybe. But we just don't know enough about this character. We need more with this character. I like the actress a lot. I do like the actress. I think she's doing a good job in this role. I want to like the character of Carly, but right now she feels more like a plot device than anything. She doesn't feel like a full-fledged character. And especially the fact that this episode was like 52 minutes long. They could have easily done more with her. They could have easily dived deeper into what she's doing. Maybe contrast that with, you know, what Bucky and Sam are doing, but they're not really doing anything with her. We're getting, like I said, just a few conversations. It's just not enough. I want to know more about who Carly is. I want to know more about their motivation. And considering we're halfway through the show and we still don't really know why they're doing what they're doing, that's a problem. And I don't know if we're actually going to, you know, I don't think if they're going to end in a satisfying manner. I really don't.
No, yeah, I'm just not really with it. I can't even lie to y'all. I'm just not really with it with these characters. Like, they're easily my least favorite thing about this whole show so far.
Yeah, and it's disappointing because I really liked the idea of the Flag Smashers, but I just don't feel they're doing anything that interesting with them. And again, that's really my fear for a lot of this show. I'm just worried that, you know, we only have 3 episodes left. There's still a lot that we need to cover. Isaiah is going to come back. We saw him in the recap of this episode. He's definitely going to come back in some way. We need to get more with, you know, Sam trying to help out his sister and Bucky meeting his sister. That's got to happen very soon. We need to see more of what Zemo's actual plan is. Is he doing this for his own benefit, or does he actually want to help Bucky and Sam? Now we have this whole thing with Io. Now we have, you know, this whole thing with Sharon Carter as well. Is she the power brokers and more going on there? So you can understand my frustration. There's just so much going on in this show, and we only have 3 episodes left to wrap it all up. And I'm just not confident that it's going to end in a satisfying way. I really think the show should have been around 8 episodes long. I think that would have just made for a more satisfying show overall. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe next episode comes around and they're able to fill in the gaps of some of the things I'm worried about.
I'm still holding on to my theory that, like, I feel like each episode is going to get longer than the next.
I hope so.
I'm still holding on to that theory, but I just hope that, like, that's what we're going to get with this.
Yeah, and I mean, that's definitely something that I'm hoping as well. I'm hoping that they're able to dive deeper into the things that I want them to by having a longer runtime and things like that. But I'm just not really confident, especially by the way this episode went. I'm just not very confident that they're going to be able to do that. Getting into the directing for this episode, I wasn't that impressed. I didn't feel there was a lot of direction here. It felt like Kari Skogland wanted to cram so much into one episode, whether it's this stuff with Zemo or getting to see more of Sharon Carter or them in this nightclub and things like that. There was simply too much going on in this episode for me, and I don't think the directing was really up to par. I will say Derek Kolstad did do a pretty good job with the writing here. It was pretty clear that this was from the writer of the John Wick films. It very much did feel that way. However, the problem I do have with that is that the John Wick films are not necessarily light on plot, but it's stories that always find a way to have action scenes coalesce. And I don't think Falcon and Winter Soldier is the same beast. I feel like there's a lot more story going on here. And it felt like this felt more like a John Wick movie where a lot of the story felt like, oh, it's here to propel the next action sequence. And the writing was not up to par with, I think, what we got in some of the other episodes, at least for me. I know you probably feel differently, but I was not a huge fan of the writing in this episode.
I personally liked, the directing. I thought the writing was pretty good too. I thought it was really, nicely directed. I don't know. I enjoyed, I love me a good, mission based episode. Y'all gotta understand. I'm a big fan of shit like that. I love it when they we're all right. We got our clear mission. We're gonna go after this. Like I enjoy shit if it's done right. I enjoy the shit out of it. So, and I personally liked it here.
Yeah, I can definitely understand. I think cinematography-wise, this episode was still great. There were definitely some really good action set pieces. Like I said, when Sharon is just the best action sequence for me easily was the one with Sharon, where she is just like just mutilating those, not mutilating, but like she's absolutely destroying those guys just one by one. I thought that was really great. I love the way that whole sequence was done, even if it was a bit nonsensical with the fact that like immediately after this guy dies, they like come after her. I thought that was a little bit too coincidental, but aside from that, like I thought it was a really great action set piece, and for me was the best sequence of the episode. That or Bucky going back into the Winter Soldier. I thought action sequence wise, this episode delivered.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and then again, editing for me is another big issue with this episode. I think that it was just very choppily done. It felt like they were cramming what felt like 3 episodes of story into one, and it just did not work in the way that I wanted to. Ultimately, I didn't hate this episode or anything like that. I think there were a lot of things that did end up working about this one for sure. I think there were a lot of good ideas, spread throughout this episode, but there was just simply too much going on, whether it was the reintroduction of Zemo, the reintroduction of Sharon Carter, and a lot of it just being told to us and not actually getting to see it. I feel like we were robbed of some really good storytelling here. Not getting enough with the Flag Smashers either. I can't for the life of me give a shit about anything that they're doing, and that's really starting to become a problem with this show. Me also not getting enough with John Walker. I think they needed to do more with him. I'm hoping that in these next few episodes, they're able to prove me wrong. They're able to end things in a satisfying manner. But right now, I'm just not really loving the direction of this show. I think this episode was far too plot driven. I don't think we got enough with the character of Bucky, and especially with Sam, who was really put on the back burner in this episode. He really did not have much to do here. Not to mention some moments that just felt kind of out of character for Bucky and also for Sharon. It just didn't really make sense for a good portion of it. There were definitely some moments I liked, like Bucky reverting back into the Winter Soldier. I loved seeing Daniel Bruhl come back. His performance was excellent here, and I think he definitely is going to be a big highlight of the show from this point forward. But overall, I just was not a huge fan of a good portion of this episode. So I am going to give this episode, The Falcon and Winter Soldier, episode 3, Power Broker, a C+.
Bob the Boo. Hello. Now, I overall thought I enjoyed this a lot. Like I said, I'm a big fan of like when mission based episodes and stuff like this. So and I thought it was pretty well done here. There are some issues I do have in terms of not focusing on certain things, like with the John Walker stuff, and not caring about the Flag Smashers. And there's some certain things with Bucky and Sam and the Zemo stuff that I think could have been done a bit better. But overall, I enjoyed this episode a lot. I enjoyed going on the mission with them. I enjoyed the chemistry between all the characters. I think that's what really holds it up for me and makes me really enjoy this episode, in all honesty. And I really enjoyed it a lot, honestly. Even though it is my least favorite of the 3 episodes so far, I still thought it was a highly enjoyable episode. So I'm going to give this episode a B+. Bada bing, shabang.
All right. So again, we were very divided on this episode, which was kind of refreshing. I like that we weren't on the same page here. Was, interesting perspectives. That's why we do these videos and things like that. So that's always fun to do. But before we do wrap things up here, you know what time it is. It's time for you to do your outro and plug all the socials and things like that.
Hell yeah. All right. So you can find me on the YouTubes and the YouTubes, Twitters, the TikToks at FilmFan0599. You can find me on those things, and of course, you can find me on the Letterboxd at WWEFan0599, because Letterboxd will not let me change the username. And Kevin, you know what comes next?
Yes, just like how Steve did not check up on Sharon, Letterboxd does not check up on Double Nine to make sure that he's okay with the username.
My favorite part of these reviews, and I'm serious on that. Anyways, but yeah, thank you once again to Kevin Falk for having me on for yet another review. Always excited to do these.
Yes, and it's crazy that we only have 3 episodes left of the show. I don't really know how to feel about that, like I said. But excited to see how this show does wrap up. We have a couple other shows coming your way very soon. We're going to review Invincible when that's done, so look forward to that. The Bad Batch we're planning to review as well once that starts up, so definitely look forward to that one as well. But other than that, guys, for our review of this week's episode of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, comment down below, let us know if you guys saw this episode, you on my side or Double Nine's side, or maybe you feel even differently than both of us. Maybe you like this episode more, maybe you dislike it more. You know, I always love hearing the conversation and things like that, and glad we actually had people watching.
And thank you to the one person that was actually watching this
actually
review.
Provided some insight. That was very fun. I hope we
thank
get
you.
more of that for sure. It might have made us rethink of when we should actually do these videos in terms of relevancy and audience and things like that. That's stuff that's always very important. But other than that, guys, for this video, hope you guys enjoy it. We'll see you guys in my next video, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.
Bye.